Hey everybody, Brian Zane here, reporting to you from my hotel room in Philadelphia to talk about the launch of NXT 2.0. It's technically 3.0 since the first version of NXT was the competition, and then the NXT we know now, I think we all kind of collectively assumed was 2.0, but you know what? This is the new 2.0. You know, who knows anymore? So after long last, after seeing that rainbow paint splatter logo for weeks now, and all this speculation as to what it would end up looking like in the end, I liked it. I like the new look. I like the new aesthetic. It's more of like, it's almost all the way around. You can see the fans now. It's more brightly lit. It's more brightly painted. It doesn't look like a dungeon anymore. I like where they place the screen. So there's an NXT logo, which is the screen on the hard cam side, and then you've got the stage, which is very bright and LED-orific. I don't have a problem with the look of it. It's brighter. It just looks more, just nice to be in, basically. So I think in terms of the aesthetic and the new set, it gets a thumbs up from me. But what do you all think about the new look of the Capitol Wrestling Center? Before we see the set, though, we get the back-to-back promos from the participants in the Fatal 4-Way for the vacant NXT Championship tonight. More on that later. It ends with LA Knight cutting a promo, and as he's done, suddenly we see this guy named Bron Breakker, who is actually Rick Steiner's son, and it was believed he was going to go by Rex Steiner, but now he's Bron Breakker, which is a terrible name. There's no two ways about it. So anyway, he introduces himself, and he basically wants an opportunity, and LA Knight says, okay, let's have a match right now. I'm like, wait a minute, aren't you wrestling later on in like a title match? This seems very irresponsible of you. So they have the match. Bron Breakker looks like a total beast. It's not a wild match or anything, but he has his incredible strength and agility. I mean, Braun is about as like Steinerific as you can get in this thing, because he hits the Steiner line early on, which they don't call it that. And then as he's making his first big run, Vic Joseph says he's got a dog-faced gremlin style mentality. Like, come on, like you make all the Steiner references, you give him a multicolored singlet, but you won't call him a Steiner? Like, it's so obvious. Like, he looks like Scott and Rick did a fusion dance. This is like what came out of that. He ends up winning clean as a whistle over LA Knight with the military press slam. Like, wow, so like this is a twofold moment. Like, what a wild opening match moment to really kind of solidify the newness of this new NXT. So Bronson Rex Steiner is his real name, which is probably where the Braun comes from. So Bron Breakker, terrible name, but a really fantastic debut. And the shocker of LA Knight losing this opening match when he's already set to wrestle again, I thought was very confusing. And we'll go back to that, because I thought, oh, well, if he loses this one, maybe he's going to win the championship as a way to get his heat back. But we will see what goes on with that. Up next, Imperium take on the team of Josh Briggs and Brooks Jensen. Now, Briggs has appeared on NXT in the Breakout Tournament. I don't think Brooks Jensen has been on TV until tonight. They said that he's like 20 years old or something on commentary. He's a very young boy, so it's very impressive that he's there on this big stage here. It's a fairly basic matchup. There's not much to say about it, but it ends with Wagner with this big old suplex onto Jensen off the top rope for Imperium to win. We get the in-ring debut of B-Fab from Hit Row as she takes on Katrina Cortes. This is another squash match. It's one of the many just short matches you'll see on this show. And throughout this entire match, there's one dude in the crowd just chanting, Hit Row, over and over again with the theme song. And it makes me very angry, the fact that he keeps doing it. So B-Fab wins handily, hardly breaks a sweat. And then afterwards, she's on the microphone and she calls out Elektra Lopez from Legado del Fantasma, as she calls her Senorita Secret Sauce, which is a very funny nickname. So anyway, Elektra and the rest of LDF come out, and Elektra says, she calls B-Fab a little girl in Spanish, and says she won't need a lead pipe to shut her up next time. And so B-Fab and Hit Row want to have a fight, want to have a scrap, but LDF balk. So this is like one of the few carryover storylines you'll see. Like, they do a lot of like starting off things that are like not established at all in this episode, but this is one of the few angles where it's like a direct carryover from the old NXT, where like Legado del Fantasma and Hit Row are still feuding, and so we'll see where that takes us. But yeah, B-Fab being a wrestler now that she's kind of like entered the world of that, and hopefully Elektra Lopez will be doing that as well soon. So that opens up a lot more possibilities, not just for like the women's division, but also how these groups will interact with each other and other groups going forward. Backstage, the groomsmen of the Indi Dexter wedding are getting ready. There's Johnny Gargano, there's Cameron Grimes, there's Odyssey Jones, and they're all dressed like Dexter. It's really wholesome and precious here. And then Austin Theory comes back too. We haven't seen him in several weeks, and he is back, and he brought himself a priest with him, Damian Priest that is, who by the way does not appear in the wedding at all. Like, he just basically shows up because he says he wants to party, and I think that's just so on brand for him, and that's great. So anyway, we get that segment there, and then we get a Carmelo Hayes promo. The winner of the breakout tournament. He's got his little portfolio still. He's also accompanied by Trick Williams, who's another newcomer, and they kind of like just brought him on, and like they actually were supposed to know who he is. I have not, unless it's on 205 Live or something. Like, I don't know where he's been, so I apologize for that. This felt like a very heelish promo by Hayes. But at the same time, like, you got Trick Williams saying, "You're too humble these days." Like, really? Because what he said didn't sound very humble at all. But basically, Trick Williams says a lot of words very fast, and he tells Carmelo, to be the great athlete, the star that he is, essentially. And then Carmelo goes, "You're right. I will stop being humble." And he also adds that as long as he's got that portfolio, it's a guaranteed title shot or a guaranteed title around his waist, basically. So they go to leave, and then Duke Hudson shows up, who, by the way, is also a heel. So Duke Hudson shows up, talks a little bit of trash to Carmelo, saying, "Oh, you got lucky when you beat me in the breakout tournament, and you know it." And then, like, he goes into the ring, presumably for a match, but then Trick and Carmelo just go in there and both beat him up. And so heel on heel action here, stands tall, do Carmelo and Trick. And that was that. Like, I am open to the idea of like a heel Carmelo Hayes. I think that would be great. But I also hate babyface and heel turns by way of promo, because it just feels like so lazy. At least the ones I've seen that I don't like, on the shindy level especially, like, that's what I'm thinking of. And this wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. It just felt like it kind of came out of nowhere, and just wondering the relationship of, Trick Williams being a longtime friend of Carmelo Hayes, apparently, but that seems new to me. I mean, I didn't watch NXT last week, so maybe I missed that, so I apologize. But yeah, I thought again, Carmelo being heel is fine. This promo, I didn't care for it. We go backstage and see JC Jane and Gigi Dolan talking to the new Mandy Rose, who we do not see. We don't see her face, although 2 weeks ago she had her face, blasted with the big dropkick by Saray. So, what is she gonna look very different here? Who knows? So those two are taking on Caden Carter and Casey Catanzaro. As the match goes on, we see a picture-in-picture of Kyle O'Reilly getting ready for the main event when suddenly Ridge Holland and Pete Dunne beat him up, and then he's saved in the locker room by some guy. We don't know who it is, but we'll see him in a little bit. So the match goes on here. Mandy Rose enters the ring, and she gets the other gals disqualified. She's a brunette now. There you go. Mandy Rose is a brunette. That is the new Mandy Rose. And she also dresses a little bit differently as well. And so this happens. Saray runs in to make the save. And then, you know where this is going, folks, because this is now a Vince McMahon joint. We have ourselves a 6-woman tag team match, playa. So the match goes on. And like right near the end, like before the finish of the match, we get a "This is awesome" chant, which I'm like, okay, I mean, this is a good match. It's fine. I wouldn't go so far as to call it awesome, but that's just me. The match does end, though, when the new Mandy Rose, it's a big running knee lift to Caden to win the match for the team. And so, yeah, that's the new Mandy Rose, and it makes you wonder, it's like, what exactly are Gigi and JC doing? What is their motives? What's their game? I mean, those vignettes they had a couple of weeks ago were definitely creepy and stuff, so I'm wondering, like, what does this all mean? We see Indi Hartwell and the bridesmaids getting ready for the wedding, and then elsewhere we hear from GM Willie Reeks, who announces that Kyle O'Reilly is out of the championship match later on, but he's going to be replaced by the guy who saved him, some guy named Von Wagner. Like, all right, this dude is a tall boy, and this guy we don't know is going to be in the championship match now. He's got a 1-in-4 shot. Let's rock and roll. We see a vignette from a guy named Tony D'Angelo, whose gimmick is basically, "Hey, I'm in the mafia, gabagool." And then we go to our next matchup as the Creed brothers from the Diamond Mine take on Dan Jarman and Trevor Skelly, which do not sound like real names. The Diamond Mine is growing in numbers yet again. There's a lady now in their midst. And, I missed the Creed brothers in-ring debut earlier this month, but I watched this one and was very impressed. I like the raw physicality and the stupid strength from these Creed brothers. And it's crazy because right now NXT has one official Steiner and two essentially honorary Steiners in the roster at one time right now. Oh my God, if these three are put together in the same ring at the same time, it will be chaos. But anyway, they immortalize these guys. They just beat the fuck out of these two poor guys. After the match, Malcolm Bivens on the microphone, putting over the Creed brothers as well as the new lady in their group, whose name is Ivy Nile. She flexes the guns and looks very impressive. Very much an athlete as Ivy Nile here. And then we see Kushida, the Cruiserweight champion, make his way to the ring. He gives Matthew a great intro for the You Talk Too Much segment. And then Malcolm Bivens issues a challenge for the Cruiserweight Championship against Roderick Strong next week. And Kushida looks at his invisible watch, which I guess is a symbolic way of accepting the challenge. So that rematch, should be good next week. All right, so in our main event match, you got a fatal four-way for the vacant NXT Championship. You have Pete Dunne, Tommaso Ciampa, LA Knight, and this newcomer, Von Wagner. So this story broke over the weekend where Samoa Joe, who beat Karrion Kross for the title at TakeOver, had to relinquish it due to an injury. And if that sucks that Samoa Joe won it and has to immediately drop it. There are people out there who theorize that this injury, even though Samoa Joe has been susceptible to injuries over the years, and it wouldn't be a surprise if he got hurt and couldn't defend it anymore, but also it's just interesting that the timing lines up with this NXT rebrand where they're trying to wipe the slate clean essentially and trying to start this whole new thing. And so to have a new champion start this new era, it just seems very convenient is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the injury is fake, but people are saying that. So, who knows what the truth really is. I think it sucks at Samoa Joe either way. If he's hurt, it sucks. If the work is an angle, it sucks even more, I think, because it's just something where you're glad to see Samoa Joe back in a place of prominence, and then for it to be taken away like that is disappointing. Hopefully he can get back in, and I don't know where Samoa Joe fits in the new NXT, in the 2.0 or whatever you want to call it, but it is disappointing that the reign that was basically done to kind of put a mercy killing on Karrion Kross's reign also didn't really go as many people would have hoped. So this match is very interesting because three of these guys all have very identifiable styles, and you know exactly what kind of match you're going to get with those three guys. Then there's this big dude, Von Wagner, who is just a lot of what he does early in the match especially, he gets booed for. The fans are not quite ready to accept this dude with the blonde scraggly hair and the Cro-Magnon brow line. But he does a lot of big guy moves essentially. He's there in very short spurts. He's in and out while the other three guys basically do the heavy lifting in this thing. Finishers are traded near the end. It seems that at least one of Von Wagner's finishers is an angle slam. He almost wins it a couple of times, and I was scared for a bit. Oh my God, is this random dude who nobody knows going to be the next NXT champion? That would be scary. In the end, though, you've got Tommaso Ciampa hitting LA Knight with the fairy tale ending to win the match and regain Goldie. He regains the championship he never lost. Why LA Knight had to lose twice in one night, why he had to wrestle, Rex Steiner and lose that one to just lose this one again, who knows? I think he could have just lost this one once and it would have been fine. But it was so Ciampa is the champion again. I think it's great. Obviously Ciampa, he had the neck injury. He couldn't, drop the belt to somebody else. And so for him to win it again, I think it's a very nice feel-good story. And yeah, rock on T-Champs. Then the show wraps up with the wedding of Indi Hartwell and Dexter Lumis. There's a lot of funny shtick in this stuff. The whole segment begins with the members of the NXT roster coming out to attend the wedding, and we get this scripted bit with the Grizzled Young Veterans where they're getting picked up on the mic and saying, oh, this wedding's not gonna end well. There's gonna be a fight or something. That's probably what's gonna happen as they keep walking. So that was pretty funny. And you've got your typical wedding bits, and Austin Theory's still a dum-dum, and Johnny wants to know where the rings are. Austin doesn't have them, but he's we're in a ring. And then Ike Manjiro for some reason has the rings in his coat. I'm saying if you're watching this NXT for the first time, or if this is the image we want to project onto these new viewers who are curious about it, it's it's just a weird bunch of like cameos from these characters who like people might not know about. And also it was really interesting because like there wasn't a whole lot of crowd sweeting on this show, it felt like. So all these like gags and these jokes they were doing for the wedding, I think like the audience was like sitting right on top of it, and like the noise from them felt like they were definitely reacting to what we saw out there. I think there was a great part where, you know, speak now, forever hold your peace, and Lumis just brandishes the axe, and that gets everyone to stop. So Indi shares her vows, and then Dexter in response just gives a thumbs up, and the priest is like, WTF, man, like she said all this stuff and you're saying nothing, and like so then Dexter puts the priest into the silence to shut him up for good, I guess. And so then like there's a priest chant, like people want Damian Priest to show up, he does not. And then like, Regal, can you handle this? And Regal just makes his face like, I don't know, I'm supposed to be here and that's all. So he can't do it either. But then Beth Phoenix steps into the ring and takes over because she says she got ordained online one night before because she thought something like this would happen. Then Beth says, let's cut to the chase. And then Andre Chase just darts up. Did somebody say Andre Chase? And everyone's like, no one said that. And Odyssey Jones just like gets on him and forces him to sit down. And then Johnny grabs the rings, and Austin Theory, you can hear him mic'd up saying, we're in a ring with rings. Like, again, Austin Theory was brilliant in this segment. I'm so glad he's back because I think he was a missing, much needed element to the Indi and Dexter storyline going on with the Garganos here. So Indi says, I do. And then Dexter finally speaks. He says, I do as well. Gets a big pop. They smooch. And that's how it ends. The wrestling wedding goes off without a hitch. What a novelty for a wrestling wedding to actually go as planned. Like, I thought it was pretty entertaining. I think that it's like some of the wrestler cameos and some of the lines they had and stuff, it was just very much like a sketch comedy show is what this felt like to me. But it was done very improv, and it was, you know, this whole live theater thing is the vibe I got from it. So there were times where it felt a little bit cringy, but like it passed, and then just as the rest of the thing went on, it was just, you know, more of like the wholesome fun that you'd see from the Garganos and Dexter and how that whole storyline had been built over the last 8 months. So yeah, this was a real whirlwind storyline, and this being like the high point of it, the blow off to it, I think, you know, it ended about, as wholesome as you could expect, and I think it was a very entertaining way to end the show. But then after that, we get a little bit of a postscript where you've got Ciampa, the new champion, looking on the monitor backstage, and then we see Bron Breakker. Still a terrible name, but he's back, and he congratulates Ciampa on winning, and Ciampa congratulates him on his win. They shake hands, and then Braun just starts breathing very heavily and staring intently at Goldie, and Ciampa looks a bit concerned. So I like where it ends on that kind of cliffhanger, where this Bron Breakker guy comes in and just like shocks the world to start the show, and he immediately places himself as a possible contender to Ciampa, and talk about the contrast of like original NXT and whatever this new NXT is going to be to end the show. Now, I don't feel comfortable giving it a letter grade just because this show is so new, and it's like the identity of this show, I feel like it could change drastically in any direction in the next few weeks. So I don't know if I don't know what to compare it to, honestly. So I'm just going to give it no grade for now, but I will talk about the things I liked and I didn't like. I like we saw new names in here. They advertised new names and new faces. We got them, some of which were thrown into extremely high-pressure situations like Bron Breakker and Von Wagner. Why do their names sound so similar right now? I have no idea. But I think they generally handle it pretty well, especially Breakker. I do get putting over the newness of things, and there was a lot of new stuff to take in, the logo, the set, and all the wrestlers, but they hit you with so many new people. Like, I already forget like who all debuted. Like, I'm not sure I could count them all, basically. There was a lot of things thrown at you. I mean, with each passing moment, I'll remember one, but I'll forget something else. There was a lot of stuff there, and I feel the next few weeks are also going to be hitting you with a lot of like vignettes and promos and matches with all these new people. It's crazy how many people they had just in developmental ready to go, apparently, and it makes you wonder like what the rest of the OG NXT roster, where they're going to go. I'm sure some people will get called up, like LA Knight. A lot of people are thinking maybe he's going to get called up because he lost twice in one night. Maybe some other wrestlers will going to be floating around to help put over the new names. It's just very interesting right now where they're going to go with it. But I think that, like I said, I love the arena. I love the new look of it. I think the in-ring style right now of like the established NXT people does not jive with whatever they're trying to get across with the new NXT. Like I said, I think the identity of this show could change. I think they're going to have to find one that works because I don't think their characters, by and large, the established ones at least, fit this bright, peppy, hip-hop new look. I feel that it was an interesting combination of the two worlds in this one, and there is going to be some growing pains with this new one. I think that's going to go without saying. So what the ultimate product's going to look like, who really knows? But I mean, if this is any indication where they have all these new developmental people like in reserves to like be ready for TV, based on what we saw this week, I'm excited for the future of NXT. I'm not sure how compelling the television will be, but right now, just based on what we saw in these little snippets, there are some bright points for the future for sure. But what did you all think of the launch of NXT 2.0? There was a lot to take in this week, and I'm sure the next couple of weeks will be no different. So please let me know. Fire away your thoughts and all your hot takes in the comment section below. Just a heads up, because it's a big travel day for me tomorrow. I'm going to be tired, and I will not be reviewing Dynamite. Just for one more week, I'm not reviewing Dynamite, folks. But next week, I will get back in the swing of things, and you will hear a new episode of This Week in Wregret on Thursday, once I'm finally back in town and Jay and I can record again. So there's that. But until then, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.